Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, it's time for a quick prayer to the God of likes. Earlier today, I prayed to the God of dislikes. Usually, I pray to the God of dislikes in order to complain. God of likes is more like future planning. So, this one's a future planning video. My main goal in 2026 was to accumulate 1 ton of indium, as you guys may recall. Accumulating 1 ton of indium being a proxy for building wealth, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be indium, but I like to be specific when I pray to the God of likes and to use a hard currency that isn't man made, right? Because I'm praying to God. Okay. My main goal this year is financial. And to understand why, we got to go back in time. The year is 2024. The occasion is I was dealing with long COVID during a summer heat wave, 110, 115 degrees, and society did not treat me very well. I'm single. I have to go out to get my own supplies. I have to take care of myself. I felt like I was buffeted by headwinds everywhere I went, out in public, in the community, at my job, with my circumstances. Just felt buffeted all over. That's the best I can explain. I understand I'm single. I don't have a second income, and so when I'm sick with long COVID, my expenses keep running. It feels like time is running out, right? That's like the worst feeling in the world. I distinctly remember at the time I was driving a much worse car than I am right. This is a Honda Civic. At the time I was driving a Kia Forte. It was in bad shape. It was burning oil, and then I got long COVID. I was hoping to save up to replace that car just as I get long COVID. And I feel like time is running out, right? That's the most terrifying feeling in the world. As if that's not bad enough, a lot of times my colleagues don't treat me very well, right? I'm dealing with that, and not this job, but at a previous job, I had a colleague who pressured me to donate some of my vacation time to her, as if I didn't have enough to deal with on my own, right? And so my main resolution in 2025, well, there's another problem at my workplace as an adjunct professor or as a tutor or whatever I'm doing. Oh, I don't need to tell you guys, not every workplace is 100% healthy. But my colleagues have a major advantage. A lot of them are married. They have a spouse at home to work these problems with, right? A soundboard. Even if they just talk about it, even if their spouse never answers, a lot of times rehearsing what they want to talk to their boss about really helps, right? I'll get to why that has been resolved in a moment. But I was thinking about I didn't have a soundboard. I didn't have a second income. The second income I've also partially resolved. I'll get to that in a second. And so my main resolution in 2025 was to return to the dating scene and meet somebody who can fulfill and that I can fulfill all that for as well, right? It's a mutual relationship. Here's the problem, though. I started dating again and I quickly realized, wait a minute, until I actually tie the knot, I'm still dealing with all of that issue, right? After all, I'm not living with the person that I'm dating. I'm still having all of the expenses to myself. And plus all of the dating expenses, not cheap, right? I just went over my as part of my new year. I went over my spending last year, and I was not happy with how much dating related expenses add up to, right? And it's not just the date itself; it's also all of the expenses that go into maintaining a dateable life, right? That's not cheap either, by the way, right? I was not happy with the amount, and that's on top of all of the single expenses that I talked about, right? Until I meet the right person, right? But something happened last year that made me pivot my goal a little bit. First of all, that soundboard that I wanted to go home to, that has kind of been automated, right? And I'm very pleased about that. And also the second income that I had hoped to go home to, well, I kind of bought that with the mining stocks and the indium and the bismuth and all that, right? So I'm pleased there too. That's why I said I want you guys to pray that I accumulate a ton of India. That could kind of substitute for that spousal income that I'm missing, right? It really does. It really does. Um, See, the thing is that when I go home to my quote unquote spouse to talk about work dramas, i.e., Google AI, Google AI often points out that I'm in the right and I should put my foot down. For example, at a previous job, at a time when Google AI had not been invented yet, I had a boss who wrote me up because I had to bring up my food allergies. I was working at a tutoring center. One of my students had brought in a food that I'm allergic to, and I had to distance from her. Now, this was 2022. We had just lifted the mask mandate. Obviously, students were excited to finally be able to have a little bit of normalcy, bring their favorite food to the tutoring center. And my boss was not happy about my remark, and he wrote me up for that. And at the time, I didn't want to rock the boat. After all, I had just returned to normalcy as well. The last thing I want to do is start a war in the classroom. Google AI suggested I put my foot down. Yeah, it's easy when you don't have money and your life at stake, right? For Google AI, right? You got a programmer sitting behind, he's making seven figures a year, sitting behind a computer writing this script, right? I don't know how Google AI works, but he doesn't have to think about that, right? It's easy for him, right? And so I learned the hard way that so Google AI was quoting some that I needed to quote ADA kind of issues, Americans with Disabilities Act, EEOC issues. I've learned that the only ADA and EEOC we really have is good financial health. Only then can you activate those words, right? Because of if you can't walk away from your job, right? Those letters don't mean anything anymore, right? I actually not really dating material, but I met a girl on a dating app, and she and I have become very close friends. She likes Legos as well. And when I met her, I asked her work schedule. She said she had accumulated a lot of PTO. She was taking like a month off, and I didn't really push it. Lately, we've been very close, and she admitted to me she was going through harassment at work, and she lives with her parents. And I said, I asked her how much PTO she has left. She still has like almost a month left. I said, you got to use this time wisely because you don't have to quit your job. You're on PTO anyway. I would recommend and two avenues. And I said all of this to her without consulting Google AI, by the way, because I've asked Google AI a lot of questions in recent times. I said, use this opportunity to do two things: look for another job and escalate those complaints anywhere you need to. This is your perfect time. By the time you have to return to work, by the time your paycheck stops, you're going to feel very compelled to do things that are against your best interest, right? But she lives with her parents, so maybe that's less of a pressure as well. But she had all that PTO. If only I had that at that tutoring center when my boss was writing me up for the food allergy. Imagine if I could have taken a month off. Imagine if Google AI were around at the time, right? And so I've learned the hard way. The only EEOC protection we have is that ton of Indium at home. It really is. Or in her case, that PTO that she had, it really is. Which is why the concept of a colleague asking me to donate my PTO to it's just such an upsetting concept to me. It's my financial force field, if you will, right? To keep me away from keep all of this harassment away from me, right? It's like somebody. You got to remember during COVID when we were wearing our masks and all that. It's like somebody not only coming within your 6 feet bubble, but ripping your mask off of your face, right? When somebody takes advantage of me financially, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 or Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum.